Ji, Assalamu alaikum. My name is Raheel Haider, and I'm going to take you through to a short journey regarding housing finance in this webinar. So we have got participants from outside Pakistan as well. So or for the majority of the time, we are going to keep English as a medium of communication. However, if anybody of you wants to ask something in Urdu, I'll be more than happy to answer accordingly. So let us formally start the session by reciting few verses from the Holy Quran. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح ورأيت الناس يدخلون في دين الله أفواجا فسبح بحمد ربك واستغفر إنه كان توابا صدق الله العلي العظيم. So a little bit about me. I am Raheel Haider, having almost 18 plus years of experience hardcore in housing finance. I've been associated with four Islamic banks in Pakistan. Uh, was involved in launching housing finance product in Dubai Islamic Bank, Pakistan. Was involved in launching consumer, especially housing finance in Burj Bank, which is now part of Al Barka Bank, Pakistan. I think few of the participants are complaining about the voice. I would like to request the
Voice is
moderator
clear,
to
sir.
kindly look into it.
Your voice is clear, sir.
All right, that's fine. So let me share. Let me share the screen with all of you. Can everybody see the screen, please?
Yes, sir.
That's great. That's great.
Yes.
So we are going to be discussing housing finance, especially focusing at the Pakistani market and the impact of housing finance on the population of Pakistan and its economy. The presentation is going to be majorly divided into three parts. That is the introduction about housing finance in the markets of Pakistan, the challenges that we have already faced and facing, and the opportunities that we are having in our hands. So for that, we have to start with the industry analysis, current situation of the housing industry, demand and supply issues, and the way forward. You can see there is a graph appearing on your screens. This is a comparison of few likewise countries like Pakistan. We can see that the progress of housing finance or the mortgage is measured on the scale of mortgage to GDP. Mortgage to GDP actually defines the growth of mortgage in any country. If we compare the mortgage growth with the gross domestic product of any country, we can see or we can measure the progress of housing finance. In Pakistan, unfortunately, the mortgage to GDP is on the bottom of that graph. You can see at the bottom of that graph, it's a worm with the floor. This is the graph of Pakistan's mortgage to GDP ratio. If we compare it with our neighboring India, where the mortgage to GDP is standing at around staggering 13%, and in Indonesia, it's 3%. And the Southeast Asia, the mortgage to GDP average is around 3.5%. So here we can easily say that Pakistan's mortgage to GDP ratio is very poor. So we are going to dissect it a little bit. We are going to compare what was the mortgage portfolio in past 5 or 7 years and where we are standing right now after some steps taken by the government. Here, there is a graph, there is a table in front of you, which is suggesting the total advances in mortgages, especially in housing finance back in 2016. You can see that back in 2016, the total mortgage outstanding of the industry in Pakistan is just 16.6 billion rupees, with the non-performing loans of 11 billion against it. That is 17.7% of the infection ratio, which means that the outstanding portfolio of mortgage in Pakistan was 61.6 billion, and out of those 61.6 billion, 11 billion were infected, were non-performing loans. The government, the regulator has done some corrective measures, and after those measures in 2023, our outstanding portfolio is now standing at around 220 billion rupees, with an NPL of 12 billion. That is 5.5% only. Means the advances, the portfolio, the outstanding portfolio has grown significantly, but the non-performing loans are very much in control. The growth of advances in real estate in the last 3 years is because of a scheme called Naya Pakistan Housing. It was a landmark scheme which was never done before in the history of Pakistan, and all the commercial banks were given targets to achieve housing finance targets in stipulated times. You can see that those targets are not only given to the banks for extending loans to individuals only. This time, the mindset behind is to improve the supply side as well. So for that, separate targets were given to the banks to extend advances for builder and developers so that they can come up with the projects, residential projects on time, and this can improve the supply side as well. A part of Naya Pakistan housing initiative was Mera Pakistan, Mera Ghar. Mera Pakistan, Mera Ghar was something for focusing the low income brackets of the population. Here we have targeted the middle and low income groups. Government of Pakistan has advised commercial banks to extend housing finance to these individuals and sharing the cost of the installments partially or majorly at the cost of government's budget. Here you can see a graph where you can see all of a sudden the interest of the public in applying for housing finance has increased within a span of just 2 years. From 1st December 2020 till 1st June 2022, just one initiative of Government of Pakistan has made people of Pakistan aware about the housing finance product, and they have started applying for the housing finance by approaching commercial banks, Islamic banks, DFIs, etc. The amount approved against the applied amount has also increased, and the approved to disbursed graph has also shown sign of significant improvement. So, what was the major cause? What was the major problem in Pakistan's housing finance industry? We can clearly say that the population of Pakistan is among the top 6 countries. We are a country of more than 220 million population with an annual growth rate of around 2.4%. 36.38% of that population is actually residing in urban areas and 63.62% is residing in rural areas. But the unfortunate part of that population is the majority of the population has very limited access to the housing units. You can see that 63 or 64% of the rural population has only 12.19 million housing units available for them. And for the urban 36.3% population, we have got a housing surplus of 20.01 million. So that brings us to a conclusion that we are short of around 10 million housing units, which is growing at a rate of at least 2.2 million housing units annually. 10 million already in the backlog and increasing at the rate of 200,000 housing units shortfall every year. With very less access to finance because of one major reason that our banked population is very less. Uh, Bankable customers are very less. So awareness is an issue, and banks have imparted their major concentration in the last 3 years towards spreading the awareness about housing finance through Mera Pakistan, Mera Ghar, and Naya Pakistan scheme initiatives. Another important roadblock towards the growth of housing sector in Pakistan is the complicated title transfer. In every province, especially, and in every district, there is a difference in transfer of title. There are different fees that makes it very difficult for an individual to transfer the title in his or her name. Absence of infrastructure and absence or very infant secondary market. So here you can see a pictorial representation of the accessibility of the housing for the population. We can clearly see that the low income household comprises of 68% of the total population with an excess of just 1% of the housing supply. Majority of the Pakistani population has just 1% access to the housing supply. 20% of the population, which is categorized as middle or in middle income households, has access to around 43% of the available housing supply in Pakistan, and the rest 12% categorized as high income households have the access of 56% of the total available housing supply in Pakistan. So the question is, where do these 68% of the population resides? We can see that the Kachi Abadi holds 50% of the urban population, which is a very mind-boggling figure that our 50% of the urban population is residing in Kachi Abadis. And these Kachi Abadis are supported and supervised and looked after under the Acts of 1987, 1992, and then in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa in 1996. They were given shelter under these acts. So, when you cannot provide proper housing to the population, you give safeguards, you give support, you give shelter under these acts to the population. Housing finance market dynamics, I have actually tried to divide the last 25 years of housing market of Pakistan in actually three windows, from 2000 to 2005, and then we are going to discuss the other two windows after that. From 2000 and 2005, the markets, the banks were very conservative. Only few competitors were there, like Citibank, UBL, and one or two more players were participating in extending housing finance to the market. They were only focusing on the niche, the best of the best customers, the affluent class only. Means then they were not focusing on the individuals from the majority of the population, that is the middle income group or the lower income strata. Their sales force were very highly incentivized, which created a situation where the salesperson from the financial institution tries to achieve their target by uh, uh, focusing on the top tier or the more affluent class customers, those who are already having housing, those who are rich. They were approached by the sales force just to achieve their targets conveniently. No background check to the customer. We were not having the facilities like bureau checks, like ECIBs, like data checks, like Nadra Verisis. Nor do we have the facility of verifying the tax documents of the customer in those times. It was very difficult to assess the customer's eligibility in that era. Most of the time, it was a judgmental call based on the given documents and the intuition of the limit signer. Manual verification of the records were done, and compromised underwriting because mortgage market was not flourished. It was not a proper market at that time. Therefore, the underwriters were not having the expertise. And last but not the least, unclear property title documents, which were a big cause of the frauds in those banks. The second window that we are going to look right now is from the year 2006 till 2015. That includes the financial crisis era as well in it. Pakistan was among those countries who were least affected by the financial crisis of 2007 2008, because the prime cause of those crises were mortgages, and we at that time were not having a healthy portfolio of housing. Our advances were not in housing. We were not a major player. In fact, we were not a player by international standards in the housing industry. That's why we were least impacted. We were least affected by the financial crisis. But from 2016 till 2015, from 2006 till 2015, the confidence was gained by the commercial banks, especially by the Islamic banks. There were a couple of Islamic banks which came into the market, like Mizan Bank, like Bank Islami, like Dubai Islamic Bank. There was a bank called Emirates Global Islamic Bank, which was later converted into another Islamic bank or taken over by another Islamic bank. So they were the major players. They were aggressively lending in housing finance, especially secured asset housing finance and auto financing. Their portfolios were growing and they were taking the first mover advantage. There was some aggression seen, there was a competition seen, and resulting in the growth of housing finance portfolio. Business sense was developed, portfolio mix. Product managers were more focused on making a healthy portfolio mix of secured and unsecured products. Demand was also increasing in those times. People have started approaching banks for getting their houses financed, especially the ones with more proper financial backgrounds. They knew that a property financed through a bank has more scrutinized property title documents, and they have some tax exemptions in through housing finance as well. Again, it was a highly incentivized product for the sales staff. Background check facilities such as ECIB, data check, IRS were there. Now the underwriter has the facility to check the background of the customer, their repayment behaviors in other products, and their debt burdens as well. Online verification records through NADRA were there. People can underwriters have the facility to check the customers nationality, their whereabouts through NADRA records. Improved but limited underwriting resources. Since the focus was building on housing finance, there were proper training and development sessions by the bank. Proper investments were done on housing finance resources and underwriters, and resulting in better underwriting. And as I've already shown you before, that the default rates were not increasing after 2016. Clear title documents were there. It was observed that people have started developing the sense of getting the importance of their property documents and the sanity of those documents. So they, before purchasing of the document, they were told to get those documents verified from the concerned authorities, and the banks also advise their panel lawyers to get these documents vetted from concerned authorities before providing the legal opinions. So the last window we are going to look is from 2016 to 2021. In that era, properly planned programs were launched by the government and the banks. Like the one as I've already told you about Naya Pakistan housing schemes, which was inclusive of all the all the population strata from lower income groups to the higher income groups. The focus was only towards the majority of the population, like low income and middle income people. Aggressive monitoring was done by State Bank of Pakistan regarding the targets given to the commercial banks, inclusion of key players like builders and developers, housing authorities, etc. That was the turning point. Builders and developers were also involved. Banks were required and given targets to approach the builders and developers so that they can get access to the finance from the banks and get their projects delivered on time. In fact, before time. This was actually the need of the time to improve the supply side of housing units in Pakistan. Massive awareness campaigns at the cost of the banks were advised by the regulator. Monthly monitoring of those awareness campaigns were done. Mystery shoppings were there. Highly incentivized structures were encouraged. Background check facilities like ECIB, data check, ICE were there. But telcos, FBR, PBA, and Board of Revenues were involved now to support the cause, especially in Mera Pakistan, Mera Ghar, the tier one. You must all be aware about about these three tiers of Mera Pakistan, Mera Ghar, where the tier one was actually specifically left for the lower income groups for the properties which was supposed to be developed by NAFDA, Naya Pakistan Housing and Development Authority. And tier one was exclusively for extending finance on those properties to the lower income bracket of the population. Online verification of records through NADRA on bulk data, privately shared data resources. There were several things going on at NADRA, at FBR, at State Bank of Pakistan and PBA, where sharing of data, confidential data among the government stakeholders were done in bulk, and Laterwards, the outcome was shared to the banks as per their risk appetite. Expert level underwriting of resources was achieved. Banks were then having expertise in the underwriting, credits, selling product everywhere. Improved title documentation was observed as the awareness was created among the banks and the authorities. They were so particular about the sanity of the title documents, and before getting a customer involved in any sort of property deal, the real estate agents were aware and were advised to brief the customer about any issues in advance so that the customer cannot proceed with the token money. And the same is being done at the end of the bank, where the sales representative of the bank was given enough training to understand the documentation on the face of it and advise the customer accordingly. So the outcome of all those activities taken by government of Pakistan and State Bank of Pakistan is in front of you in form of these 12 months. You can see that in a span of 12 months, that is from March 21 to March 22, the growth of the housing and construction finance portfolio was tremendous. It is observed that around 200 billion Pakistani rupees were advances in that 1 year only. And the best part of that was 85% increase year on year was observed, and 60% of that increase, that progress, was from the Islamic Bank. 2021 ended with PKR 38 billion disbursed in low cost housing only. 38 billion rupees in low cost housing means a segment which was never touched upon by the commercial banks is now something which is which was taken very seriously by all the commercial banks just because of the allocated target by the regulator. 38 billion disbursed in low cost housing means 3 times or 4 times the number of houses given to each family member. Naya Pakistan housing scheme that included low cost housing. Low cost housing was, these are the parts of Naya Pakistan housing scheme. LCH means the low cost housing, which was actually designed for the widows, war affected areas, children of martyrs, transgenders, etc., or the areas which were under the war during Operation Cleanup from 2012 onwards. The other scheme was Mera Pakistan Mera Ghar, which was a success throughout. Builder finance, as I've already told you, that it was a part of the scheme to include the builders and developers uh, for financing from the bank, so that any shortcoming was bridged by the banks and their projects can be completed on time. Mandatory targets were given to the banks, financial institution, DFIs, non-banking financial companies, and the microfinance banks were later involved in that as well. Types of Islamic mortgages, riba-free mortgages, Pakistan, there are actually uh, three models, and most of the financing is done keeping musharka, kam ijara, or musharka into consideration. Musharka is a form of co-ownership where the bank and the customer invests in purchasing a property. The two parties agree to invest in a property and buy the home together. And with every installment, the customer repays the rent and purchases some units from the bank. This is called the declining balance method. The home buyer gradually buys out the financier's stake in the property while paying a fee to use the part of the property still owned by the financier. This is the most common and authenticated form of Islamic financing in America as well. Ijara is basically a lease to own arrangement. The financier purchases the property and the home buyer rents it. You might already be aware of the operating lease concept and financial lease concept. This is a replica Islamic alternate for those products. A portion of each payment goes towards the tenant's future ownership of the property. The home is not registered in the buyer's name until the payment is complete. The third type of financing can be of murabaha, is a model in which the financier buys the home and sells it to the customer on a deferred basis at an agreed upon profit. The customer pays a deposit and repays the furniture over a period of time, including a profit charge with each payment. This is not a loan with interest. It is resale with deferred fee. So the most popular method, the last two models have significant drawbacks. In Ijara, the home buyer is basically a tenant for the entire period of the contract and does not enjoy the benefits of home ownership until payment is complete. Meanwhile, Murabaha creates an obligation for the home buyer that resembles debt. So diminishing musharaka has been deemed by the most highly respected scholars in Islamic finance as the best option, and it is followed as the major mode of financing, especially in housing industry in Pakistan. So let's touch upon the main cause of not getting the housing finance right from the initial stages in Pakistan. The main cause was the land reforms. We unfortunately were not having proper land reforms done in Pakistan, and as a result, we are facing severe issues in the title documentation of the property. In rural areas, people are residing on the agriculture land. Agriculture land is fast converting into housing societies in Pakistan, which is not allowed. So let's touch upon the objectives of land reforms actually. What land reforms do? It ends the exploitation of the farmers. We are an agriculture country, so first priority should be given to the agriculture land and the farmers. Promote equity and social justice, redistribution of the land to landless. Land reforms provide lands to the landless so that they can work upon it and get it into a form from where the value can be derived, like through agriculture, etc. Incentivize investment by farmers, promote agriculture development, promote security of tenure, encourage more demand through redistribution of income, and reduce land conflicts and ensure social stability. So here you can see that weak land reforms resulted in weaker housing infrastructure in Pakistan. So let's compare our land reform with our neighboring country in India, where the mortgage to GDP, I've already told you, was standing at around 13% and improving year-on-year basis. Here, it is a very congested slide, but the idea behind sharing this slide with you is in India, they have done the land reform in phases of 5 years. In first phase, in first phase, they have identified and they have identified locked under large size of holdings of land, and they have tried to include maximum number of people for land ownership. In the second plan from 1956 to 61, concern about vast rain-fed agriculture, low land productivity, and thrust on irrigated agriculture were focused. In third plan, you can see, so they have introduced 5-year plans one after another, so that their proper land can be utilized for both agriculture, industry, and for residential purposes. This is the conclusion of those land reforms. I have taken example of three areas of India, that is Kerala, where 10 standard acres, up to 5 members of the family, 15 standard acres and 10 standard acres were given up to a family of 5 members. 15 standard acres, more than 10 members of family were allotted. Ceiling 5 standard acres for plantation only, exempted from ceiling. Just the land which was exempted from the ceiling was only for the purpose of plantation. In Tamil Nadu, 30 standard acres were given for a family of up to 5 members, and 15 standard acres to the companies. The plantation area was exempted from the ceiling. In West Bengal, which was focused for industrialization, 24.7 acres were given to individuals for setting up mills, factories, workshops, tea gardens, etc. Now have a look at what was done in Pakistan. In 1959, first MLR 115 law was approved, where 500 acres ceiling on individual land holding. You can see 500 acres of irrigated land or 1,000 acres of unirrigated land or 36,000 produce index units were given to individual. In 1972, some changes were made in those land reforms. 150, those 500 acres limit was reduced to 150 acres for irrigated land and 300 acres for unirrigated land per individual. In 1977, it was further revised to 160 acres irrigated and 200 acres of unirrigated land per individual only, which resulted in landholding feudalism. Landlords were created, and access to the land was not for the general public, which resulted in the screen you can see. I have actually put up three graphs of three major cities of Karachi, three major cities of Pakistan in that graph. On top of it, you can see residential property prices track a timeline from 2011 to 2023. You can see that the property which was valued at around 2 crore rupees back in 2011 was valued at around 9 crore rupees in 2023. This is a huge increase in prices. For Lahore property, for a same size of property in Lahore, the price where the price was around 1.5 crore, the property price moved to uh, 4.5 crore rupees in 2023. Just in a span of around 10 years, the property prices have multiplied multiple folds. And in Islamabad, you can see a property of the same size, which was around 2 crore rupees, a little over 2 crore rupees, has moved to 13.48 crore, 13.5 crore rupees in just 10 years, just because of the limited supply of the land, just because of the holding of the land into some limited hands. The proper utilization of land was not done, and the housing shortfall has increased, and the demand has increased multiple times. The challenges and risks that we have. We all know that the inflation is all-time high in Pakistan. The rate is record high in Pakistan. And the land reforms, we are facing the results of weak land reforms. Affordability is a challenge, pricing, inflation, access to finance is a challenge. The other major challenge was foreclosure, where the pending cases are still waiting for a logical conclusion. But in the Pakistan housing scheme, major steps were taken to resolve, to implement the foreclosure law, and which has started to show some results in recent past. Corruption is another major challenge, which is especially causing the cost of transaction very high. Encroachments and illegal settlements, the properties which are kachi abadis, which are encroached lands, cannot be converted into proper housing units and can be financed and cannot be financed. Expanding the horizon, what to do now? What about the way forward? How to go about it? Large-scale residential colonies to be announced on the outskirts. Here in Pakistan, especially, everybody wants to live, everybody wants to have a house in the major cities of Pakistan, like Karachi, Lahore, Islamabad, and then Multan, Faisalabad, Hyderabad. So major emphasis of every individual in Pakistan is to own a house in major cities. Why? Because they have proper infrastructure, access to the facilities. So what do we need to do now? We have to uh, survey the outskirts of the major residential cities, residential societies, the barren land to be surveyed properly, large-scale residential colonies to be announced on the outskirts of the major cities in Pakistan. And who's going to be doing it? Reputable and licensed builders and developers through public-private partnerships. We have to encourage, the government have to show continuity in their policies. They have to encourage builders and developers. They have to encourage financial institutions to extend money, the builders and developers to approach banks and to adopt proper legal practices in their operations, so that banks will not be reluctant to extend financing to the builders and developers. Systematic development of the barren land lying vacant. There is a huge land outside every major city in Pakistan which is lying vacant. So infrastructural development by development authorities, proper allocation of budget, proper monitoring, proper timelines to be given to the development authorities, professionals to be put in place, proper hiring to be done in those authorities, and proper monitoring to be done for development of the barren land outside the major cities, so that the public can be encouraged to buy, purchase, and live outside the major cities as well. A fantastic example, the best case for that is Bahria Town, Karachi, and DHA Karachi. Barrier Town, Karachi is a classic example of proper high-class development outside the major city, Karachi, Lahore, and Islamabad. They have developed the barren lands, and they have encouraged people to visit the city after certain development. People were encouraged to purchase property, and they have now a lifestyle who are living in barrier towns of Karachi, Lahore, Islamabad, Rawalpindi. Promoting staff residential facilities for industries operating on the outskirts. The industries like cement industries and textile industries operating in the outskirts of the major cities like Multan, Faisalabad, Lahore, and Rawalpindi, they have an issue of labor transportation. Every day, the labor has to come from far-flung areas to the factories, and then at the end of the day, they have to go back. There is a huge transportation cost involved. There is a huge attendance cost. So these industrialists to be encouraged and to be extended uh, flexible financing to establish residential colonies, staff colonies nearby their installations, so that they can have uninterrupted labor supply, and the cost of transportation can also be reduced. Special subsidies and relief to the industrialists engaged in the development of low cost housing. Just in case if anybody has any question, he can raise hand, and I'll be more than happy to clear any confusion. Just in case if anybody has so far. Before moving further, anybody who wants to ask any question, he'll be more than welcome. Okay, special subsidies and relief to the industrialists encouraged in the development of low-cost housing projects. There are some initiatives already taken by the government of Pakistan and Abad, Association of Builders and Developers, and some private developers, and some are already in the pipeline. But the need of the time is for many of such schemes to be announced by the government of Pakistan and provincial governments, especially provincial governments, to be given targets like the targets given to the banks in Pakistan Housing Scheme. Provincial governments are to be encouraged to launch their low-cost housing schemes to accommodate their population within their logical jurisdictions. Digitization and automation of land record and transfer procedure. Revenue, housing ministry, and housing authorities to be involved and to be made accountable for this purpose. Almost all over the world in developed countries, the documentation of the properties is computerized, whereas in Pakistan, Pakistan Information Technology Board has done some tremendous work in recent past. Property records in Punjab have almost been digitized. In Sindh, almost more than halfway through in digitization of the complete land record. They are now available on applications. Which society has clear title document, which society has some pending title documents and NOCs. It is all available on the PITB's portal. In Sindzamin.com was developed, where a person's CNIC can be used to identify how many properties, how much land he owns. But there is a lot to be done for KP and for Balochistan and for Gilgit-Baltistan as well. Okay, involving and empowering of development authorities. What is the role of development authorities? Basically, a development authorities like Karachi Development Authority, Lahore Development Authority. In Islamabad, it was Capital Development Authority. In Rawalpindi, it was Rawalpindi Development Authority. In Karachi, apart from Karachi Development Authority, because Karachi is a big metropolis, there are other authorities like Mali Development Authority, Layari Development Authority, DHA, Defense Housing Authority. These are all the development and housing authorities operating in major cities of Pakistan. Their major objective is infrastructure development. Land development authorities to mandatory provide basic infrastructure facilities such as planning, coordination and rendering planning advice. Land development authorities have to ensure that land development is done already, so that the builders and developers and the development authorities are encouraged to come do survey, make feasibilities, and launch reasonable housing societies and projects in on those lands. Public housing scheme, low cost housing schemes can be announced on that land. Roads and bridges to be developed are one of the major components of the duties of development authorities. Redevelopment, the land which was already developed needs proper maintenance. So it was also part of the JD of development authorities to look after the already developed lands, computerization of the land records and accounting systems, archiving of land records and land acquisition. Uh, if they feel that they'll be needing more land in next 10 years, 20 years, or next 50 years, so proper planning to be done for acquiring more land from private and from public. Our focus should also be on sustainable housing. Energy efficient modular housing is one key element in this regard. In Pakistan, actually, the focus is given on acquiring, on owning a house with the land. So there are some connections, emotional connections of every individual with the land in Pakistan. So here the cost of a housing unit with the land is comparatively high, and if we compare it with the with an apartment with a housing unit in a vertical building. So proper awareness campaigns to be run for environment friendly housing societies. Incentives to be given to housing societies who are working for modular housing. Prefabricated and modular are the next big thing. Instead of going for blocks and mortars, prefabricated housing and modular housing to be focused. Prefabricated homes manufacturers produce these homes in factories and transport them to the building site. I've met few companies who are involved in manufacturing these prefab houses. They were giving guarantees of up to 50 years for their products. They can prepare the modules in their factories and they can just bring it in a truck and install it at the site. They don't need to dig deep underground for the plinth and foundation. So the major cost for construction of a house, one of the major cost is the laying of plinth and foundation. So in case of modular or prefabricated houses, that cost is almost nullified. Tiny homes for villagers and IDPs, internally displaced peoples. These modular housing, if we are going to promote these modular housing, then we can avoid the housing crisis, especially in times of floods and earthquakes and natural disasters. Timely, quickly, these modular houses or these societies or these colonies can be built at the affected areas, and the IDPs can be temporary or permanently given shelter under these housing units. Shipping containers homes, these are not something new for the world to understand, but in Pakistan this is going to be a new phenomena. People need to know the importance of having a movable house. If you can move in your car, so can your house be moved within 5 or 10 years. If you have purchased a piece of land which unfortunately becomes not livable after 5 or 10 years, then we have to make the customers understand that this is going to be a big permanent loss. But in case of fabricated house, the house can be moved from one place to another, especially that shipping container homes. Sustainable, how energy efficient they are. They come with an advantage of timely completion, sustainability, logistical ease, efficiency, safety, cost saving, quality assurance, waste disposal. If in case you want to extend a modular house, you don't need to do some digging and damaging the existing infrastructure. You All you need to do is call the company, get some prefabricated panel, get them screwed with the existing walls, and your extension in the already made house is ready within a day or a half. These modular houses are fireproof. The material that they are using are fireproof, so the safety hazards are also very less there. And the security hazards, the earthquake, they are earthquake proof. They're 50 times more earthquake proof than the house which is built through bricks and mortar. For bridging the gap in Pakistan, actually, builders and developers and the financial institutions are to be encouraged. There are some logos in front of your screen: Defense Housing Authority, Association of Builders and Developers, known as ABAD, Karachi Development of Naya Pakistan. We need to set a platform for all of them to sit together to come up with a solution of this housing crisis in Pakistan, until and unless all the stakeholders, along with the regulator, along with the State Bank of Pakistan, ministries, they are not going to sit together. It is very difficult to come up with a logical solution. Up till now, the builders and developers are reluctant to approach the financing institutions because they generate the funds for development of their project through public. The practice that they adopt is they purchase a land just in case if they have purchased, or they partner with someone who already owns the land. They announce a project and then they generate the money from the public from their advance payments, and gradually through the payment plan, the money that they are generating, they build the project accordingly. But this comes with an inherent risk. Like in last 3 years, the inflation has risen to unprecedented levels. So people are not being able to make timely payments to the builders, and and the inflation has resulted in increase in the prices. So the projects and the builders are facing crisis to complete the projects in given time because their budgets have exceeded. So to counter this, they need to be sit together with the financial institutions, proper products to be announced. They have to be given proper briefings about how the financial institutions can lend money to them for them to complete their projects on time and without getting the hit of the inflation for the raw materials required for their projects to get complete. Another setback for the builders and developers in last 3 years was the ban on imports in Pakistan. There are some items which were required to be imported, and the ban resulted in lingering on the completion of those projects. So, platforms such as Abad to be engaged in spreading awareness about the financing facility. Abad is a privately held body of the builders and developers, which can be used to create trust and harmony between the builders and developers, between the customers and the financial institution. Products like off-plan financing to be introduced in the market, where the customer who is short of funds but eligible to get finance can avail financing for a project which is announced and yet to be completed. At the moment in Pakistan, only three variants of housing finance are available. A customer can purchase a already constructed house, or if he owns the land, he can get finance to construct a house, or if he wants to purchase a piece of land for construction of a house, he can get financing from the bank if he is eligible, and the land is also having the proper title documents. But in case of off-plan financing, the builder can approach the development authority, can approach the financial institution with the feasibility and the project plan. He can produce all the documents to the bank and get them evaluated upfront in advance, and ask the bank for a portion of the cost to be financed by the bank for the construction of the project. Parallel, he can also introduce financing from the same bank or other banks to the individual who are interested in getting an apartment or a housing unit booked in that society or in that project. So off-plan financing, which is a common phenomena internationally, especially in Middle East and in developed countries, but in Pakistan, unfortunately, no housing unit has so far been introduced as off-plan financing. The reason behind is the documentation of the builder, the non-availability of the NOCs that builder has to obtain before announcing the project, and the integrity of the builder and developer. So for that, we can follow a model which is adopted in Dubai, where uh, builders and developers are categorized into A, B, and C category. The A category builders are those like Imar and another one who are government-owned subsidiaries. They can offer off-plan financing after announcing a project right away, or after completion of 20 or 30% of the work on the site. And the B and C class builders can offer a project on off-plan financing after completion of 80% of the work at the site. Means the customers don't have to pay the premium of buying a complete house. In Pakistan, when a project is announced, the price is X. But at the time when the project gets complete, the price rise to X plus 2 or X multiply by 2. So the premium, the customer who is the end user has to purchase a complete property at a premium. But by availing off-plan financing, the customer doesn't have to pay premium on the complete project. He can right away opt for booking an apartment or a house in a newly announced society which is yet to be constructed. And at the time when the property is going to be constructed, the approved loan can be passed on or can be proceed to the builder and developer on behalf of the customer, and the customer can enjoy the capital gains on the property. Public-private partnerships to be promoted, and a culture of trust between the builders, developers, authorities, and the financial institution is the need of the time. The role and vision. Unfortunately, the most important link which is missing in Pakistan's real estate horizon is the real estate regulatory authority. The real estate in Pakistan is the most favorite instrument where every individual wants to invest. It is the priority of every individual to invest or own a house or real estate in Pakistan. The first choice for every investment investor in Pakistan is real estate. But unfortunately, to look after their investments, there is at the moment no real estate regulatory authority. So the need of the time is we need to have a real estate regulatory authority uh, on ASAP basis to look after the interest of the investors and all the players involved in real estate, from an state agent, from a customer to the large scale builder and developer and the financial institution. Roles of every stakeholder to be clearly defined, to be supervised, and they should be answerable to a regulatory authority. Let's hope soon we are going to have a real estate regulatory authority. Almost halfway through in establishing of real estate authority. Let's see how soon we are going to have our real estate regulatory authority properly functional in Pakistan. Valuation agencies are already doing a great job, but there is still room for improvement. Development authorities need to come up with their best. They need to come up with proper documentation and roadmap for development and construction of new housing societies in Pakistan. Must realize the importance of full-fledged regulatory authority to look after the most sensitive sector of the country. Top priority to be given for the legislation and immediate establishment of RERA. Engineering universities and business schools to be approached for including real estate as a mandatory subject for their undergraduate and postgraduate programs. Recently, the leading business school of Pakistan, IBA, has started a diploma in strategic real estate management, which was a fantastic program. I myself I have attended the first cohort of that diploma, and I'm very hopeful that now people have started realizing the importance of academics of real estate, and soon I'm expecting that more and more universities and business schools are going to incorporate, and engineering schools are going to incorporate literature and material and courses in their degree programs related to real estate development in Pakistan. So that's all from my side, and I'm now opening the forum for question and answers. Anybody wants to ask any question? More than welcome, please. Negative areas in Karachi, Infinix 0x. I think negative areas in Karachi and Pakistan where banks not given financing. See, there was a negative area list earlier till 2015, but later words, State Bank of Pakistan has clarified that there is actually no non-target area for banks anywhere in Pakistan where the title documents are approved and as per the legal requirement, fulfilling the legal requirement, they are all financeable. Where the approved building plan is available, banks are more than encouraged to finance the properties all over Pakistan with proper documentation of the property.
Assalamu alaikum, Raheel. Can you hear me?
Walaikum salam.
Thank you for your excellent presentation and giving us an overview of housing processes and various areas, complications, etc. I'm residing in Sharjah. I'm a Pakistani also. I want
Okay.
to understand how the housing finance actually being offered by Islamic banks in Pakistan, covering the process, the Sharia compliant process, or you can say Islamic process for housing. If you can specify about the Islamic process which is being implemented there.
Okay, let me answer you by first sharing a little introduction of our Roshan Apna Ghar housing finance, where which was specifically designed by State Bank of Pakistan to cater the needs of overseas Pakistanis who are willing to purchase properties in Pakistan. So you can apply through Roshan Apna Ghar digitally uh, using the website of the bank where you are operating or you wish to open an account in Pakistan. Secondly, if a customer wants to purchase a property through Islamic Bank offers financing by investing in the property with the customer. So if the property is costing 10 million rupees and the customer is interested to avail financing of 8 million on the basis of their eligibility and financial capability, the bank is going to evaluate them and then offer as per the eligibility of the customer. For example, the financing size of 8 million is approved. Those 8 million rupees will be invested by the bank in that property, and that 2 million as a equity from the customer is going to be invested in purchasing the property through musharka. And a joint agreement will be formed, a partnership will be formed on that property. That property is actually an avenue where both bank and the individual has invested, and the property will be in the name of the customer, will be purchased in the name of the customer with the agreement signed by both bank and the uh, customer. With every installment, the customer will be utilizing the bank's part of the property and giving rent to the bank for utilizing of that portion, and will be giving an additional payment to purchase the bank's units every month. And gradually, after a period of 10 years, 15 years, or the agreed term, gradually the ownership of those 80% units will be transferred to the customers with every passing month through installments.
So in case of the partial or complete destruction of a home or property taken by a client, a customer, suppose for unforeseen or Almighty Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, some earthquake or flood,
Okay.
with a force major. So
Yes.
if the
So
property is
usually
partially destroyed or
properly is
fully
demolished.
destroyed,
You mean to say properly is demolished during the
proper,
financing renewal? Yes. So what's going to be the
yeah,
outcome? Yeah,
partially
that's
or
a very,
fully demolished. So how the bank share the risk
yes.
or
Yeah,
losses
bank.
in that?
Usually what happens, Islamic banks, they incorporate a Takaful component in the installments. as per the share of the bank and the customer. Two components, two Takaful components are incorporated. One is life Takaful of the customer, and the other is property Takaful. As per the component of participation, as per the ratio of participation, the bank pays as per the participation ratio of the bank. In that case, which we have decided 20%, in every installment, 20% of the property takaful is paid by the bank, and 80% of the takaful component every month is paid by the customer. So God forbid, if something happens to the property, the outstanding is recovered from the takaful company in the percentage of the contribution. Bank will recover the percentage outstanding, and the customer who has already owned certain percentage of the housing unit is going to get the remaining amount in his account. Similarly, God forbid if something happens to the customer, so there are few banks, majority of the banks, they incorporate the life takaful facility in the product as well. So just in case, some banks pass on the total cost to the customer, and some banks, like in our case, Bank Al Habib, absorb the whole life takaful cost on itself. God forbid if something happens to the customer, the bank settles the total outstanding from the takaful company and hands over the property documents to the customer's legal heirs. So in both the cases, it's properly covered mostly in all the Islamic banks, but especially like in our bank, we absorb the cost of life takaful at the end of the bank and not pass it on to the customer.
Good. This is good. Very good.
Okay. There's
Now,
another
one more
question. I
question.
heard that portions are not allowed to financing, and new Nazmabad area is not allowed as well. Of course, portions are not allowed. There is a science behind that. Portions are built on single housing unit. If a 240 square yard house is allocated and allotted to an individual for building a house, so in government's record, it's one house. It's one house. So if someone builds two more floors on that property and sells it to two different parties, the actual ownership of the house and the piece of land remains with the actual allottee of that. So in the development authorities record, you cannot get these portions mutated in individual's name. The person who is going to purchase that portion can never be able to get the portion mutated in his or her favor. Similarly, they will never be able to get the approved building plan issued from the controlling authority. That's why banks never give away financing on portions.
And how the rental is being calculated or charged to the customer for the customer portion?
As per the percentage of their contribution, as per the percentage of their contribution.
Yes.
For example, if
This
a
is
customer purchase a property of 10 million rupees and give advance or customer's participation in that property is 2 million and bank's portion is 8 million, the 80% of the takaful component will be paid by the customer, by the bank, and 20% by the customer as per the portion of their ownership in the units of the house, which gradually with every passing month will increase, and the portion for the contribution from the customer will gradually increase with every percentage with every month.
the rent is calculated based on the KBOR or the market rent of the property.
What you're talking about is the takaful component or the
No,
installment?
rental
Rental.
of your
We have
profit to be
benchmark.
charged to the customer.
Okay, the benchmark in Pakistan, the pricing is benchmarked with the Kaiber. ठीक है, तो
Not the
Kaiber is
real.
benchmarked as annual pricing index, and bank's spread is at the discretion of the bank to be capped like 2%, 3%, 4%. Some from in Pakistan, it is the spread is capped at from 1.5% to 4.5%, depending upon the nature of the customer. If it is from a trustworthy company, or there are some other guarantees given by the company or the customer, the spread on top of that cabo will be discounted for that customer.
Why always KBOR is being used?
Well, there is no other
See,
benchmark is available.
you are claiming as a rental and
Yes.
sending a notice for the rental payment.
Yes.
Why not rental is decided based on the market rent for the similar property with that same area? Why it cannot be target it
Well,
like that.
the pricing. See, unfortunately, at this point in time, we only have one pricing index, that is Skyboard. We are waiting for an Islamic pricing index. Let's see if we are going to get a Islamic pricing index uh, to get attached to. We will be having no complaints, and we will directly get attached to the Islamic pricing index. But as per the regulator, there is no harm in connecting using Kybor as the benchmark pricing index, and there is no harm as per the Sharia scholars in it as well. So we have no issues until and unless we don't have any Islamic benchmark available.
No, Islamic banks are not having issue, but the common people, they understand that you are just changing the name of interest to rent and calculating say similar way like about if you charge the rent based on the market in the market, suppose 240-yard villa is being rented 30,000, 40,000 per month. Why not you adopt the same market rate of that property instead of going towards Kybor plus your margin? Is it not possible?
Well, that's a long discussion, that's a long debate. But
Okay.
in short, what I can tell you is State Bank of Pakistan has no issues. The Sharia advisory boards has no issues,
No,
and
no,
we
no.
don't have an Islamic benchmark available
The
at
general
this point in time.
perception of the people,
Yes,
what they
but
are
we need
saying,
to work
okay,
on
you
it.
are
We
doing
need
it.
to work on it. We need to discuss. We need to create awareness to change the general perception. There is nothing that is Sharia repugnant in following the Kai board. There is no harm in following the Kai board. There is a pricing index set for certain products in the market, and that's why we are using Islamic benchmark. So that's all I can respond to your question. Otherwise, it requires a lot of details. It requires a lot of discussion. I think we can have it
Thank you.
simply
Thank
like
you.
we don't have any alternate available at this point in time. How these land reforms, Dr. Sayyida Zeenat Mariam is asking how these land reforms help and helping the farmers and agriculture sector. Well, in Pakistan, we are facing weak land reforms. So we don't have a safety and security net for the farmer. But in case of proper land reforms, like I discussed the case of India, farmers, they if they have a land, they can keep the land. Nobody can take away their land from them. They can keep doing agriculture activities on their piece of land. But when the ownership of the land remains with single party, it creates landlords, it creates feudals. Individual don't have access to their lands, they cannot work on it, they cannot make their fortune out of these lands. So the feudals, they left the land unattended. Most of the land remains barren land, or they transform it into housing societies. Agriculture land converting into housing societies is actually a big issue for Pakistan these days. So land reforms give security against all these activities.
Sir,
So
I
I
have a
think,
question.
yes, please.
Sir, this is Faraz from Bank AL Habib.
Yes,
Sir,
Farhan.
thank you very much. A very, very informative session with you, sir. Thank you very much for a great
Welcome.
session. But sir, as far as penalty is concerned, what is the actual law as per the Islamic banking? Can a bank charge a penalty if a customer wants to settle the loan? Since what I observed that some of the Islamic banking they are still charging the penalty if customer want to settle the loan. So what is the
Well,
actual law?
well, there is no actual term known as penalty. See, it's
Sir,
charity. The anything which the banks charge on top of the agreed amount is has to be given into charity. It's not going to be counted as an income as a rule of thumb. But just to keep the customers, keep paying their installments on time, there is some parameter set just to make them keep paying the installments on time. But there are few banks who don't charge any penalty, who never charge any penalty. They encourage customers to keep paying timely, and they don't charge any penalty. It's up to the bank's discretion. It's at the bank's discretion to put up a penalty in their schedule of charges every year, just to make the customers liable to pay timely.
Okay, second, thank you very much, sir. Secondly, sir, as far as property perfection is concerned, we are facing very issues from the authority side since we sign power of attorney. We get the signature from the customer on the power of attorney that we are allowed to get the documentation from authority on his permission. But authority, especially CDA, RDA, what we I observe in the north region, they are not allowing, and they no issue directly to banks. Instead, they ask to come customer to receive the document, and the customer can give directly to bank. So can it is possible on your level, high management of each bank put up question to the government of Pakistan that authorities should support in property perfection side, sir?
Well, as I've already covered, Faraz, in my presentation, the digitization of the property documentation. Just in case, just imagine if all the property documentation is digitized and automated, what you need to do? The customer sitting in USA can certainly online give a power to his wife in Pakistan to purchase on his behalf in Pakistan. Similarly, by if he has already given the power when he was in Pakistan and now he has moved to USA, he can just simply request online to Ministry of Foreign Affairs to vet that power through consulate. So it is all because of missing link, which is automation and digitization of the property documentation. Authorities are already working on it very fast. You must have seen results in Roshan Apna Ghar, where customers in most of the cases doesn't have to come to Pakistan and all the documentation is done online. It's now up to the bank's risk appetite to cover, to accept online documentation, online power of attorneys, and online registered power of attorneys to execute the title and proceed with the approved financing amount. The missing link is proper digitization and automation of the property documents.
So this is limited for authorities like DHA, LDA, or it is unlimited for any kind of property if
No,
customer
no,
want to purchase that property.
it depends on the let's say if it's from Punjab. Punjab has already done digitization of the record. DHA, in case of DHA property, DHA is accepting the powers because their record is totally digitized. Similarly, in case of Bahria town, proper record is digitized, but in Karachi it is not acceptable. There are some legal issues. So if the documents are digitized and transfer is possible and the bank is okay to accept the transfer online, it can be done. It totally depends on the bank's risk appetite and bank's risk tolerance level.
Raheel,
Thank you, sir.
you are
Welcome.
listening to me? Yeah, Raheel.
Ji.
Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
सर अवेश बात कर रहा हूँ कराची यूनिवर्सिटी से।
जी
मेरा
करो।
क्वेश्चन ये था कि बैंकिंग फाइनेंस में और एचबीएफसी फाइनेंसिंग में क्या
जी
डिफरेंस है और ऐसी कौन सी अपॉर्चुनिटीज हैं जिसके लिए हमें बैंक से रब्ता करें या एचबीएफसी से रब्ता करें, अपॉर्चुनिटीज
वेरी
क्या
नाइस,
हैं?
वेरी नाइस क्वेश्चन। देखिए, हाउस बिल्डिंग फाइनेंस कॉरपोरेशन जो है वो गवर्नमेंट ओन्ड है, जिसमें 90% शेयर तकरीबन वो स्टेट बैंक ऑफ पाकिस्तान के, 9% समथिंग गवर्नमेंट ऑफ पाकिस्तान के हैं। तो इनकी लिमिटेशंस क्या है कि इनका मैक्सिमम फाइनेंस साइज लिमिटेड है, ठीक है। और जैसे आप किसी बैंक के पास जाएंगे, आप उसके कहेंगे कि मैं 150 मिलियन की 15 करोड़ की प्रॉपर्टी खरीदना चाहता हूँ, वो कहेगा ठीक है, हम 15 करोड़ की प्रॉपर्टी पे आपको 60 या 65% फाइनेंस दे सकते हैं। बट हाउस बिल्डिंग फाइनेंस कॉरपोरेशन के पास क्या कहते हैं, लिमिटेड अप्रूव लोन अमाउंट होता है। पहले वो 10 मिलियन तक था, अब शायद सुना है वो 30 मिलियन तक हो चुका है। प्लस एक कमर्शियल बैंक में आपके अप्रूव पैरामीटर से हट के कोई चीज आती है ना, तो उस पर डेविएशन या अप्रूवल मैनेजमेंट से ली जा सकती है फौरन। बट इन केस ऑफ हाउस बिल्डिंग फाइनेंस कॉरपोरेशन, ये अप्रूवल्स या ये डेविएशन या ये एक्सेप्शन ऑन एवरी केस, ये सीख करना थोड़ा सा मुश्किल होता है। मैं एक छोटी सी एग्जांपल आपको देता हूँ। फॉर एग्जांपल, एक साहब हैं, वो बहरिया टाउन में एक घर खरीदना चाहते हैं। अब बहरिया टाउन पे फाइनेंसिंग नहीं होती, ठीक है, क्योंकि इसके बहरिया टाउन कराची पे फाइनेंसिंग नहीं होती क्योंकि यहाँ लीगल इश्यूज हैं कुछ। अब एचबीएफसी आपको मना कर देगा, लेकिन कोई कमर्शियल बैंक आपको ये जरूर कहता हुआ मिलेगा, कोई ना कोई कमर्शियल बैंक वो ये कहेगा कि अगर आपके पास कोई और घर है तो उसको एज अ सिक्योरिटी हमारे पास रखवा के, एडिशनल सिक्योरिटी रखवा के हम पार्शियल फाइनेंसिंग आपको कर सकते हैं ताकि आप उस पैसे को यूटिलाइज कर सकें या परचेज कर सकें उससे बैरियर टाउन की वो प्रॉपर्टी। हर बैंक नहीं, चंद बैंक, ठीक है, ऐसा कर सकते हैं, क्योंकि इस पे सर्टेन अप्रूवल, सर्टेन रिलैक्सेशन वो मैनेजमेंट से अपनी ले सकते हैं। सिमिलरली प्राइसिंग में कुछ रिलैक्सेशन वगैरह होती हैं। अगर आपको अपनी प्रोफाइल पे कोई प्राइसिंग में रिलैक्सेशन चाहिए, टेनर में रिलैक्सेशन चाहिए, या आपकी ईसीआईबी या डाटा चेक में कोई डिफॉल्ट या डेविएशन आ रही है, तो और किसी प्राइवेट बैंक में आप जाएंगे तो वहां पे इस पे डेविएशन वगैरह रेस करना, उसको मैनेजमेंट तक पहुंचाना और वहां से अप्रूव कराना रिलेटिवली आसान होता है। बट हाउस बिल्डिंग फाइनेंस कॉर्पोरेशन में दे हैव टू फॉलो a certain set of rules and regulation, जिसमें डेविएट करना काफी मुश्किल प्रोसेस होता है। कंप्लीशन सर्टिफिकेट फॉर बिल्डिंग इज अ रेगुलेटरी रिक्वायरमेंट, यस। तफसीर हसन साहब, बिल्कुल इज अ रेगुलेटरी रिक्वायरमेंट। और इसके बगैर किसी भी प्रॉपर्टी पे फाइनेंसिंग नहीं किया जा सकता। हसन हसने रईदी, इज देयर एनी लेटर ऑफ गारंटी फॉर कंपनीज रिस्पॉन्सिबल टू बिल्डिंग हाउस इन इस्लामिक और ट्रेडिशनल बैंक्स इन पाकिस्तान? नो, देयर इज एब्सोल्युटली नो सच रिक्वायरमेंट, because there is actually no builder and developer finance environment available in Pakistan. We are quite new in this scenario. So we have developed, banks have developed their projects. So we have a proper guideline available by State Bank of Pakistan. And these guidelines are available on the website of State Bank of Pakistan as well. Banks have developed their products around those guidelines. And those builders and developers who have already complied to the guidelines and product parameters have already availed financing. But for off-plan financing, still there is a room, there is a lot to do. So I think we are done. We have covered almost all the questions. I cannot see any question
राहिल
unattended in the chat box as well.
राहिल साहब,
जी
सर आई वुड लाइक टू क्लेरिफाई एचबीएफसी और बैंक्स की कंपैरिजन के हवाले से एक
जी जी,
हमारे
प्लीज प्लीज
दोस्त ने
प्लीज।
एक क्वेश्चन किया था। सर आई बिलोंग्स टू एचबीएफसी और अपनी बड़ी ज़बरदस्त कंपैरिजन की है, लेकिन कुछ चीज़ें देखें वो मैं क्लेरिफाई करना चाहता हूँ।
जी जी, प्लीज।
हम एक तो हम एचबीएफसी बीइंग अ डीएफआई और जितने भी कमर्शियल बैंक्स हैं, हम सारे जो है ना, जो ये हाउसिंग नीड्स हैं, इसको कैटर करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं। सारे के सारे हम 1952 से कर रहे हैं, कमर्शियल बैंक्स भी कर रहे हैं, लेकिन कुछ यूनिक एपेटाइट्स हैं ज़रूर एचबीएफसी के। देखिए, आपने बिल्कुल ये अच्छी बात कही कि हमारी लिमिट्स 30 मिलियन तक हैं, बिल्कुल 30 मिलियन तक हैं। लेकिन जहाँ तक आपने कहा है कि डिविएशन, हम डिविएशन देते हैं, ज़रूर देते हैं, हमारी भी एक डिविएशन मैट्रिक्स है, हम करते हैं। लेकिन देखिए सर, आप हम जो एचबीएफसी है, एचबीएफसी का मेजर पोर्टफोलियो कंस्ट्रक्शन केसेस जो है ना, वो कंस्ट्रक्शन को कैटर करते हैं। हालांकि बैंक्स प्रेफर करता है परचेज लोन को, एचबीएफसी सर गवादर से लेके हुंजा तक फाइनेंसिंग करता है। जहां भी लीगल टाइटल हो वहां पर एचबीएफसी रूरल एरिया में भी फाइनेंसिंग करता है, अर्बन में भी करता है। हमारे यहाँ कोई केएलआई के कंसेप्ट नहीं है। तो फिर दूसरी बात यह है कि हम सर लोअर एंड मिडिल इनकम ग्रुप में ज्यादातर फाइनेंसिंग कर दें, इसलिए हमारा एवरेज टिकट साइज भी अराउंड 3 to 4 मिलियन है। तो ये चंद चीजें जो है ना, वो मैं
जी,
क्लैरिफाई
वेरी
करना
नाइस,
चाहता था।
आपने बहुत अच्छी वैल्यू एडिशन की। बिकॉज आई हैव नेवर बीन एसोसिएटेड विद हाउस बिल्डिंग फाइनेंस कॉर्पोरेशन, बट हमारे कुछ दोस्त हैं, अहबाब हैं, जिनसे अक्सर और बेशतर बातचीत होती रहती है। तो हाउस बिल्डिंग का रोल इन promoting housing finance, especially for the lower and middle income groups and every nook and corner of Pakistan, is obviously undeniable। और हाउस बिल्डिंग फाइनेंस कॉर्पोरेशन ने जो इन्होंने अभी बात की कि गवादर से लेकर और एवरी कॉर्नर ऑफ पाकिस्तान में फाइनेंसिंग, अगर डॉक्यूमेंट्स पूरे तो ये करते हैं, अनडिनाइबल रोल है इनका। इनकी अपनी लिमिटेशंस ऑब्वियसली हैं, लेकिन उन लिमिटेशंस के साथ रह के जो एचबीएफसी ने काम किया है वो रिमार्केबल है, इसमें कोई डाउट नहीं।
थैंक यू फॉर एंडोर्समेंट।
क्यों? गेट फाइनेंस फ्रॉम परचेजिंग ऑफ प्लॉट टिल कंस्ट्रक्शन ऑफ द प्लॉट। अच्छा, ये सोहेल अख्तर साहब कहने दे रहे हैं, कैन यू एक्सप्लेन हाउ सम one get finance from purchasing of plot till constructing on the same plot? So explain how rental income calculate। रेंटल इनकम जो होती है वो स्टैगर्ड फिर फाइनेंसिंग इसमें होती है। लाइक इफ अ कस्टमर वांट्स टू परचेज अ प्लॉट ऑफ अराउंड 10 million and then wants to get a house construction on it which is again costing 10 million, तो total project cost is going to be 20 million rupees। तो दैट 20 मिलियन में जो लोन अप्रूव होगा कस्टमर का, फॉर एग्जाम्पल वो अप्रूव हुआ 16 मिलियन का, अब 16 मिलियन का 50% या प्लॉट वैल्यू का 50% कस्टमर को पहली ट्रांच की सूरत में दिया जाएगा फॉर परचेजिंग ऑफ द प्लॉट। अब प्लॉट था 1 करोड़ रुपए का, 10 मिलियन का, 5 मिलियन अप्रूव्ड अमाउंट में से दे दिया गया बैंक की तरफ से, रिमेनिंग 5 मिलियन कस्टमर ने अपनी इक्विटी के तौर पर डाला और प्लॉट परचेस कर लिया। अब पहला उसका जो शेड्यूल जारी होगा वो होगा 5 मिलियन की फाइनेंसिंग का। बट इस्लामिक बैंकिंग में एक बहीना का कॉन्सेप्ट होता है, उस बहीना की कॉन्सेप्ट यानी उसको कंप्लीट करने के बाद वो शेड्यूल जारी होगा। और फिर बीओक्यू जो कस्टमर से लिया जाता है घर की कंस्ट्रक्शन के लिए, उस बीओक्यू को के अकॉर्डिंगली कंस्ट्रक्शन का पहला फेज होता है प्लिंथ एंड फाउंडेशन का, उस पे 20% फंड रिलीज किए जाते हैं, फिर 20% स्ट्रक्चर के लिए किए जाते हैं, फिर रिमेनिंग 30% जो अप्रूव्ड अमाउंट के होते हैं वो कर दिए जाते हैं फिनिशिंग के लिए। तो इस तरीके से 100% ऑफ द फाइनेंसिंग रिलीज की जाती है और उसी हिसाब से फिर उनके शेड्यूल पे इंस्टॉलमेंट चार्ज की जाती है। कैन बी अवेल ओनली वन टाइम इन अ लाइफ? नो। जनरल हाउसिंग फाइनेंस का रूल है, आपकी जितनी एलिजिबिलिटी, आप एक दफा लें, 2 दफा लें, 3 दफा लें। एमपीएमजी जो आया था, एमपीएमजी जो पाकिस्तान की प्रोडक्ट थी, उसके अंदर आप एक ही दफा ले सकते थे उस प्रोडक्ट में। कैन वी गेट बैक प्रोजेक्ट लाइक एमपीएमजी फॉर लोअर इनकम ग्रुप? यस, वी ऑल विश टू गेट दैट स्कीम बैक। लेट्स सी, authorities are working on it. So I think we are done. Uh, Abbas sir, I think
Yes, sir. Sure.
let's call it a day.
Yes, sir. Sure.
Thank you जी, अल्लाह हाफिज।
Thank you very much, sir.